Welcome into the Dad Verb Podcast. Topics around parenting from the lens of a dad.
Coming back after a little bit of a hiatus here. What's good? Andrew here. Other Andrew here. Ben Brown here. Today we are back at it. And we got a couple things on the podcast today. Before the show, we kind of had a couple ideas tossing around about what we're going to be chatting about. And it's going to be a little mismatch of a couple things, namely toddlers being terrorists, which I'm in the thick of right now. I'm in the thick of it right now. Saunders is in the thick of it. Ben's in the thick of it. We're in it, man. We're in it. And it's like wearing. It's wearing on me. I've had a hell of a week. But we like to start things off with a sick check. Ben, how's your family? Everyone healthy? Everyone good?
Good. Yeah, everybody's healthy. It's been real solid. Ever since our daughter got her tubes, we're like no ear infections, thankfully, and the odd sniffle here and now and then. But other than that, we're good.
Saunders,
is she doing
last
the,
week you were sick.
Yeah, I was sick 2 weeks in a row.
Oh gosh, and 2 weeks ago we didn't. Oh, we did one without
record.
you. Yeah, and then but how this is a very odd occurrence because you never get sick. So.
No, I was sick. The family was fine, but I had it's either like hay fever, and it was like the 2 weeks of whatever pollen was in the air, and I was just clogged and just dying.
Yeah, feel you.
Or I had like a cold and I just fought through it, or like I was functional, but it was just like constant headache, constant sinus. Like
it didn't spread to everyone else though. It was just you.
No, and that's just it. That's why I think it was like allergies.
That's why the allergies, hay fever,
right? Yeah,
I only recently discovered that term. Like I didn't realize hay fever was like, oh, that's just allergies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I never had them as a kid, but apparently it's very common for people who didn't have allergies to develop allergies, and people who did to get over them. So, I'm kind of going around that corner like, oh, I do not want to be the Benadryl king going forward, but it did relieve the symptoms. Like, I'm not going to lie. I was like, I'd go to bed and be like, and a Benadryl and some blood pressure medication and my little sleep pill, and I'm out. Like, this is great.
There you go. We're healthy over here. Kids are about to go into, it's called like a VBS, like Vacation Bible School, churchy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And every year that they've gone, this will be the fourth year, last couple of years, every year that they've gone, the week after, they've had the gnarliest sickness ever. Like, we're 3 for 3. Especially the first year, it was horrific. So this year, we're healthy at the moment, but I can almost guarantee next week they're going to be on their deathbed. It's going to be just
done for.
Oh, they're dead. They're toast. So that's going to be us.
It's that Indiana bug, right? It's that one family that comes from the region you're not used to,
right?
Just brings it in.
Yeah. The hell, stay home, guys. No,
don't socialize with people from other states. No.
So that's I don't know, but everyone's good at the moment. It's been good. We didn't record last week. Andrew, you weren't with us the week before, so it feels like it's been. I
haven't recorded in a month. It's been four, like, because we skipped an episode. You guys did Mother's Day without me because I was busy. And then we skipped last week, and so like it's been a full month since I've recorded.
Well, since you've joined us, and a new development for me, I still collect Pokemon cards. It's just how I am. I started to collect a new thing. It's called Lorcana. Have you heard of Lorcana before?
Lorcana,
yeah. So if you guys are TCG people or any sort of card, whatever, Magic the Gathering, One Piece, which gets very lucrative. Lorcana is this new release from Disney. It's a similar game, right? There's a premise. I have zero interest in opening a single card. It's some of the most expensive cards. It gets so lucrative to build decks. It's very expensive. I'm not opening a single thing. I am keeping.
You're just buying them?
I'm just buying and just holding. I'm gonna wait. This is my stock market, guys. This is my Nvidia. This is it.
I mean, if you're gonna throw $100 at something once a week, I feel like gold bars is a much better investment than Disney 100%. And Lorcana trading cards.
I just have a couple, and it's just I don't know why it just. Don't get me wrong. a lot of all of the majority of my money is going straight into the IRA, like 100% maxed out. Like we're good. So, I've hit my annual contribution of what, 6-7K or whatever it is. I'm doing it monthly. So the extra, no, not the stock market. It's going straight into the Lorcana cards, guys. So
all right. Fair enough.
It's a stupid decision, but it's nice. It's fun.
I mean, I can see how it like. So, right, I did collectible card games. I did Magic, but I have Magic cards from like the year Magic released, right?
That's
amazing. I'm of the age,
dude,
when it was the first collectible card game. I was buying them they're actually in a box, like right there. And so to watch things like this pop up, I'm like, oh my god, this is such a money grab. Like this is like the world's largest money grab, and the idea that they are going to get mass marketed backing the way that like Magic would be and get that big, just in my head goes, that's a long shot, even for Disney. Right?
It is a long shot, but there's a market for it, and it is Disney, and I don't think they're gonna let it up. So, and that's the thing. I don't intend on making this for the future, but like the first 5 sets, the first early sets, and just the main set. Well, the first set is called the first chapter, which you can't even freaking find anymore. That's like base set Pokemon, like that's that. So I'm like, I just want to collect as much of the early stuff as possible, and then just stop. I'm gonna stop because I have zero.
Did you look up the company who's doing it?
It's called Ravensburg, I think.
Yeah,
Ravensburg.
I was just curious if they had any other like major games that we would be like, oh.
That's a really good question. I should look that up. But there's this app that I downloaded called Collector. It's like COLLECTR, and you can add. If this is like if you're a collector of anything, like in whether it's any trading card game or whatever, and you add it there, and it basically like syncs up and knows the value and the appraised value and tracks the values over time of how it rises and falls. And it's like it looks like I log in and it looks like a stock portfolio like all the stuff that I have, and like what's up, like, oh my gosh, my Charizard popped off today and went up 23%. Like, what the hell? So like it's just so weird to see like my collectibles as a stock in this app. It's all like logged in there, and it's just like fun to watch it. So like I bought like a box of Lorcana stuff today, and I logged it into the app, and it's already valued at higher from where I bought it. So it's just fun to see that. That's my new hobby. But life's been busy, so that's how I
they do comic books too, right? Collectors?
Yes, I think so. But
anyway, I have all of my comics shoved into an app like that, and I think it's Collectors.
That's cool. Well,
they do not.
The meat of the show.
For those of you who are watching, comic books not a major investment.
I want to get into comic books. And like there's Phoenix Force, Jean Grey, Phoenix Force. She's like fighting the Dark Order with like the children of Thanos. And like this new, like I think it's Phoenix #3. And I don't know. I've never been into comics, but now I'm like, I don't know why I want to read that. I think I've been playing a lot of Marvel Snap.
I figured out what it was for me. It was not the comics, and it's not the stories. I actually enjoy the artwork. Like I enjoy certain styles of
So it's
drawing.
like me and Pokemon cards. I'm the same thing.
Yeah. So I will pick a couple like artists that I like, and I will read through their stories, and I enjoy those. But then I end up sucked into like the universe. Like there's a gentleman he's dead now, but his name was Matt Turner, and he did an entire Superman line, and the way he drew it, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then I got sucked deeper into the whole DC universe, because he was like some spin-off alternate line, and it was like, oh god, now I got to go read the rest of it.
Yeah, and that's what my problem is. It spins off, and then I was like, well, how did we get to this point? And then it becomes a deep wormhole, and it's bad. Right. And I
you're up to your neck.
I was going to share an example, but I'm not going to, because now it's just because and
then
my
you're opening packs online.
Right. No, my obsession with Marvel Snap has fueled it even more, because now I'm like understanding of a lot of different characters. But let's like actually talk about like our children and like dad life and like get into the actual episode.
Hey, I was checking YouTube comments. Somebody liked the poop episode because it was hysterical. Okay, they were all like, "This is the best episode ever." It's hysterical.
And what they're like, "We're new to this. Maybe
we should be less serious."
Yeah, they're like, "This is our first listen, but like, this is the episode, and I love it." I'm like, "Well, hell yeah!" Like, good. Yeah. Thanks for our.
You picked the right one, I guess.
We're immature. That's how we are.
Yeah.
But I had a couple of topic ideas. We'll kind of dive into them. I guess the one that kind of popped up in our Discord and then Saunders kind of brought it up in our little text before the chat was about guys who might.
I gotta read it.
Yeah, actually, okay, sure, go for it. Read it, and then we'll intro it and we'll open up a discussion.
One of our Discord members posted this in the Dad Support channel, right?
Yep.
Maybe an unpopular question, but I have other folks struggled with not being excited about the prospect of fatherhood. I was honest with my wife about not feeling ready for the child, and when we found out, I have since settled into resigned commitment. I'm trying to be supportive and remain positive for her sake, but we just passed 40-week mark and are excited any day now. I'm just bummed. And he's not wrong, right?
He's not wrong.
Those emotions are there. Yep. I think we can all agree that there was some point in our pregnancy journey where we were like, man, this is going to suck.
Yeah. Things are going to change for for the better, not for the better at the same time.
Right. Look,
I think
you will have a kid. You will never be able to be like, let's just go to dinner. And 15 minutes later, you are waiting at a fancy restaurant for a table to get a meal. And you're going to blow $150 on a great dinner with your wife. Like it's not going to happen. You're going to have a kid, and then that's no longer an option for you.
And then you get the kids get older, and then to achieve that same kind of level of freedom, you pay for everything, but then on top of that, you're also paying like $50 to $100 for the babysitter. You know, right. So and it's just it just compounds. And I saw that question come in, and I honestly didn't know how to respond to it. And I don't respond to much on the Discord anyway. I let Saunders do that.
If he shows up, we're like, Jesus has risen. He is here.
I read everything. Trust me, I read everything, but I don't. I just But I saw that, and I was like, I don't know how to say there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's grits because it's good and bad. One thing that I'm struggling with right now. I was just talking to my in-laws about this too. It's not even the kids. It's what the kids have done to my wife, especially during the summer, right? I come home from work and my wife isn't my wife or my bubbly wife, right? She was a mother all day. She's burned out. She can't be touched anymore. She just needs time to herself to do her nails and watch her show, right? So I feel like I come home to just the crumbs. I don't get any bit of the bread, Sometimes there might not even be crumbs left over. You know what I mean? I'm just and I feel like the toll that
she's exhausted.
Exactly. And I feel like the toll that my kids have.
Your lunch for the day is always the crust. Oh, and sometimes you just want a whole sandwich.
Yeah. Right? And I think that's what I struggle with the most is just what it's just done to my wife and how it's transformed her. And obviously, there's, she's patient, she's kind, she's loving, all the great adjectives, but then there's the reality of it. Damn, she's just burned out. And I'm and as I pull back, I'm what have you guys done to my wife? That, and that's what I've lately been struggling with, especially now that summer is here. Better. Huh?
What did you do to my girlfriend? Right? The fun, happy one that I fell in love with. Not the one that I married. Right?
The one with the perky boobs.
Let's all be honest. There was the girlfriend, then there was the fiance, and then there was the wife, and then there was the mom. And those four women might have inhabited the same body, but they are four very different human beings.
I do want to say, my marriage is actually great. My wife is awesome. It's amazing. We're a very happy family. But it's especially this week and very recently, it's just the kids have gotten older. They've just gotten so much more demanding, so much more just needy, they can't just entertain themselves. It's all reliant on her, and she just gives so much. It's just the kind of person she is. and I have to work. I don't really have a choice, and I come home and it's just like, it's like
she's had them all day.
Yeah. And she just, and she's
they
just
don't say
dead.
thank you. And they don't,
no,
right?
It's a thankless
even
job.
if they say thank you, there's no sense of gratitude coming from them.
Yeah.
Right?
And I just like feel
and the
terrible.
adorableness
Like, what can I
is
do?
wearing off. Right?
Yeah.
You don't get the cute 2-year-old smile. Like,
right. And
you
I
just
think
did
it was we had him on the podcast. It was the Present Fathers podcast. There's a saying that they had on their podcast. Like when dad comes home, I forgot what it was, but it was so damn clever. It was great. But basically it's like when I come home, that's when like order is like restored and there's like respect and there's like a line. I'm like, okay, we will let mom breathe for 1 second. And like she can wipe the blood off of her brow now and we'll leave her alone. That's what it feels like. She looks like she was just like abused in a corner. And I'm like, damn, what the hell is happening? So to answer his question, it's hard, and it's, I don't know. When you read that, Ben, what did you think?
So I struggle with, I understand it. I think every dad goes through, at best trepidation. Am I built for this? Am I going to be able to do this? And maybe an outside understanding that your life is going to change. And even being in it, like with 2 kids, and now our daughter's walking, she's full on into being a toddler, right? Like she's doing all the adorable stuff, like walking and talking and doing all kinds of fun stuff and learning games, but she's also, biting and hitting and yelling, and she's learning her place in the family.
Yeah.
And so I understand when I hear soon to be father say things like that. Like, I think I'm going to be I think I should be excited, but like, I'm not really.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. Like, your life is going to change, and it's going to be there's a chapter from when before you had kids. We talk about this all the time, right? Like, there's your life before you had kids. There's your life after you had kids.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say that I think changes fundamentally, if you allow it to change you, is where you place your priorities and values, and how you see the world, and really how raising your kids becomes a sort of, your world narrows to them, right? Like, to focusing on your kids and your family and making sure they're good people and that you're doing the right things. But it is natural and normal to either be scared and have that translate into not feeling excited, because you don't know what's coming. I mean, the reality is like, you've never had kids before. So like, all the time we talk about our kids having difficulty with this, that, or the other, because they've never been on the earth before. Like, they've only been here for 3 years, 4 years. Like, they don't know what the world is like. They're learning every day what that's like. You have to turn that mirror around and look at yourself and say, I've never been a parent before. It's not like there's a handbook that somebody hands you and says, here's exactly what you need to do in all these situations. Like, 99% of the time, I think we'd all agree that you're just figuring it out as you go along and hoping you don't screw your kids up.
Yeah.
And that's it. And like, that's a really scary thing to step into, of like, now I'm responsible for like not turning this person into a menace to society. And I've got to like make them a good human being with good values and good morals. And hopefully that's the outcome. It's a heavy responsibility. And I can see why that would lead someone to look at it and not think of it as exciting.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
And wrapping your mind that like that line between before baby, after baby, probably the biggest change is just like nothing really belongs to you anymore. Like, your time isn't yours, it's ours. There's a lot of there's a lot of change, and I don't know. And thinking about this, like I kind of don't want to beat a dead horse because we've talked about a lot of the fears. But like, if we were to assuage those fears in any sort of way, I mean, what is that advice other than other than taking comfort in that, like, we understand because we're all going through it. There's like so many frustrating parts, and it's weird. It's very hard to articulate that despite all the frustration and all the difficulties and the change, there's like a beauty about it and a positive about it. Like there's like I just had a daddy-daughter time with my daughter this morning. It was just me and her all morning, of just me bonding with her. And as difficult and as hard as she's been so hard. It was just some of the most fun I've had, even like beyond my boys, so again, so as hard as it is, I don't know how to articulate like how amazing some of these moments are as well. That there are going to be some highlights that are just so joyful that it'll, it can even make you tear up. It's just like, wow, this is so worth it. So along with the difficulties that we've just kind of mentioned, there are those moments that will come in time, and then when it hits you, and it's beautiful, and it's really, it kind of gives purpose and understanding of like, wow, this is what we're striving for. This is where we're going. But it is such a mixed bag, and I don't know how to say that, like, to get to those high moments that I just, that you will inevitably have. There's just so much like poo that you got to wade through, trying to keep clean here, so
it's very Shawshank. You got to crawl through the sewer pipe 90% of the time to get to those moments.
Yes.
I
mean, for this, so for our Discord, right? I think the thing that I think I would like to get across is it's okay to be bummed, but it's the same bummed as like, my job is ending, I'm starting a new one, I don't know what that's going to be like, right? It's there's a drastic amount of anxiety that goes with changing a job, or even worse, right? I just got fired. I don't know where my next job is coming from, but if you do the work and you apply yourself, you'll get another job, and it'll be okay.
I wish we led with this. Damn it. And I wish we had really led with this, Andrew.
And I think the reality for this Discord member is, it's okay. Feel bummed. Don't let that drag you down some rabbit hole where you're now depressed and you're upset and you're not talking to somebody, and right? Or you're spending all night at the bar drinking. Like, but it's okay to be like, I don't feel that great about this, but I'm going to do it, because you'll get to that first moment when like your kid grabs your pinky, or you're sitting there and they giggle in just the weirdest way at like a month, and you're like, where did that come from? What was so funny, right? Or when they learn how to be ticklish, because they don't come out being ticklish. Like, that's a skill that they gain at some moment, right? And just the kid giggling in your arms as you tickle them and wiggling around, right? The positives are there, and there are a lot of little ones, but it's the same anxiety as, I'm starting a new job and I don't know if my boss is going to like me. I'm going to the first day of college, right? I'm all excited because I'm going to go to college. But what if my roommate is the goth kid from high school and they never want to go outside? They've painted everything black, right? Like, we all have those weird. So be okay with being upset about it. Yes. But don't get stuck there.
Now, to dovetail, to dovetail that, right? When you do start the new job, it's not amazing to start, right? There's like a new system. There's a learning curve. You have to onboard. You have to like kind of get to know your new coworkers. You have to understand.
You don't get to pick your email address.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, damn it, they don't use Google. They're on Outlook. This is so stupid, So like, there's some intricacies to the new job that, there's a learning curve that comes with it. But then in time, there's a comfortability that comes with it, and then it becomes your new normal. And then, it is what it is. And it's just, that's how it is. And, similar with the start of parenting, there's a learning curve. There's some discomforts or some annoyances, your boss kind of sucks, whatever, this and that, but you learn it and you embrace it, and it becomes your new normal. in a positive way. So I'm not saying that your new boss, your baby's going to suck. So, but yeah, there's that feeling that Andrew laid out. I think it's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah. It's the unknown, the anxiety of the unknown, which I think it's fine and it's normal. And if I can share like any good news, it's that as hard as it is, there's a couple things. The first one is I don't know about you guys, I have never felt more purpose in my life than after I had kids, of knowing not necessarily what I'm doing or where I'm going, but at the core of it, that there are a couple of things that I absolutely need to make sure of. And it's like that they're taken care of and that they're good people and that I'm doing my job. Right. And then everything kind of revolves around that. It's like whether I'm taking care of like my mental health, my physical health, my relationships, how I interact and carry myself in the world, it all revolves around I have these little people watching me who are going to use that as their example of how they're going to carry themselves in the world. And so that then becomes like my central purpose of what I do and how I say things and how I interact with people. Beyond that, as hard as the first couple months, like our neighbors have a 4-month-old. They had their first kid, and I was just sitting there talking through it with them at like a pool party the other day. And I was just kind of talking with him, and I was like, hey, these first couple months, I was like, hey, how you guys doing? Is everything good? I was like, these first couple months are a grind. I was like, I don't remember most of the first 3 to 5 months of like our first kid. Because it's like you go home, you don't know what you're doing, you're not sleeping, like you're changing diapers, it seems constantly. And just everything's dirty all the time. Like it feels like your life fell apart. And then one day you just kind of look up and look around and go, wow, like, okay, we've kind of developed a routine. Like we're starting to see a little more personality develop. You're bonding more. And there's going to be these moments where you feel like, okay, I have this, like I can do this thing. I can go and change a diaper in 30 seconds. I can make sure, I know what their feeding schedule is by heart. I know what their nap schedule is. And it becomes second nature. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that fear starts to go away. It comes back up with every new situation, new illness, something you haven't been through before. There's going to be some anxiety of the unknown. Oh, but there's going to be these familiar patterns. Yeah, there's going to be these familiar patterns that they fall into, that you fall into. And then you start to figure out like this is your world and how to move through it.
Right. Your house is still going to be dirty, though. At the end of the day,
your house is still going to be a disaster all the time. They'll destroy it as soon as you clean it. Just accept that.
The one for me that was like the heart melting moment is you really don't realize the vernacular you're using or the how common some phrases are until your 2-year-old starts using them in context in their own actions.
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
My 2-year-old has started, she'll like drop something or she'll like have something in her hand and it's too heavy and it'll fall out and it'll hit the floor right. And almost every time, damn. and it's like, oh, Dad must say that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got a 2-year-old that uses that word in context. I'm a little proud. I'm a little proud that she knows exactly when to use it. But I'm also like, I got a 2-year-old that curses. I don't know how I feel.
You're not
right
allowed to share that story on social, or else we get canceled.
Right?
No,
so it's
I
like,
feel what you're saying. No.
Yeah. And there will be those moments when you see yourself in your kid, and you didn't even know you did it, and it's just like, oh, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like
all those times you don't think they're learning, and they are.
Yeah.
And then it'll come out. A year, 6 months down the road, like you said, like my kid now asks me all the time, he'll explain something to me that he wants to do and then look at me and go, sound like a plan, Dad? And I go, sounds like a plan. And I didn't realize how much I said that until he started saying it back to me like around like 2.5 or 3.
Yeah.
Starts repeating it.
Yeah. Starts repeating it back and you're like, oh, okay. Like, I guess I say that a lot.
Wait, that's freaking cute, man.
Yeah.
But then you have
Sound
to
like a plan,
execute
Dad?
his plan, and you're like, oh.
Right. Yeah. Then he thought through it logically, and now I have to actually go do the thing.
Yeah.
Man, and if my kid, like, he holds me to it too. If I ever say anything like that, like I have to follow through.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm still waiting on a treehouse. So technically, my sister is waiting on the treehouse because she asked the question. But we pulled one of those. Father tip: never say yes when you're tired and in bed. Okay, my dad got committed to so many things because we'd wake him up. Hey, can we? Yeah. I know. Right? And then I'd be like, "You said yes this morning."
That's
so the default answer when you are sleepy should always be no. Like no. Yeah.
Ask me tomorrow.
Literally. There's so I mean, do you think we can kind of put this little question that came in through Discord to bed?
Yeah.
I want to kind of round out the episode with something that I posed to you guys, a question that I posed to you guys in text. Okay.
Yep.
There are some traits that get passed down from our parents, whether that's physical or mental characteristics or anything like that, that you may notice about yourself. And I wanted to see if there's anything that you got from your mom or dad that you're like, I'm proud of this and I'd love for these traits to be displayed in my kids. Or if there's something that like, I want that to stop now with me and I don't want that to continue down the line. Is there anything that you guys can think of? Because I had a couple of things like that popped into my head that I noticed about myself. And I'm like, oh gosh, that is my dad. That is my dad, or that is my mom.
I don't know if my girls will get this, but we actually have a photo at my grandparents, my father's parents' 40th wedding anniversary. And for those of you on YouTube, you can see I am grabbing the left side of my head with my right hand over the top and just sitting here like holding my head, right?
Yeah.
In the photo, it's a wide angle shot, and my grandfather, my dad, and I are all doing the same thing, and we're just sitting there. Like we just have this like, like that's how we relaxed.
Tick,
And so I don't have a son, right? So the likelihood that one of the girls picks it up is probably slim to none. But
something that y'all do.
All three of us. I was in my 20s, I think.
Yeah.
Early teens when they took the photo. So like it had been a thing for our entire lives. Wow. And it's just a weird tick that I picked up. But the other one is we carry our weight in our gut. So if I can avoid having a beer gut, like there's a lot of crunches in my future if I want to trade that one. But like if you look at photos of my grandfather, my dad, and I at 40 years old, we all have the exact same like nice set of shoulders, waistline small, giant beer gut. Like it's just
that's
so.
Yeah, mine distributes all over the place.
Mine doesn't. Handles. It's centrally located. In the thermal layer.
For me, I noticed that like, so my mom is very, very neat, organized, like the joking version of OCD, you know, just like, oh, he has OCD, but like extremely organized. Like if she could have a Netflix show, sort of like the Home Editor or whatever, she has always been that growing up. Like that's just how I've always known her. Okay. And that trait has definitely passed down to me. I like things in order. That's just how I am. I like cleanliness and all that. And I see that in my kids also, like what they like to do. Like I came home and like my daughter, she's 2, and like she took all the shoes and she lined them up straight, like in perfect like gapped increments, and she like makes these straight perfect lines of like how she likes to have the shoes displayed, you know. And I'm like seeing that, I'm like, that is cute. I think it's cute. I mean, I think it's really cool to I know that came from me. And it's nice. But one thing that I noticed like from my dad's side is he's very stubborn. He doesn't like to ask for help. It's got to be done his way. And if it's not done to that standard, like it's no, I'm going to do it. But it gets to a point where it's like it's a fault where like if you're trying to scale a business, for example, you need to trust people, right? You need to get, you're responsible for that. You're responsible for that. We're all going to work together harmoniously. My dad could never, ever run or scale a business because he has to wear all of the hats. He would like, and I'm like, that has slowly like hit me, and I'm working through that little by little because I'm a part of like a couple of different like startup projects now with some people, and it's like that tendency is like really nagging at me and like really and I'm like trying to overcome that. And I would really hope that my kids don't feel that sense of like, I can't ask for help, or I don't need the help because I have to do it myself. And I think that's just us as guys. Like we want to handle it. And I think there are ways to actually like teach that. I need to like look into the strategies of that a little bit more. But I think the moral is like, I want my kids to be okay with asking for help because that is something that I struggle with. And I know that like my dad, my grandfather, like they're just this stubbornness where it's like, it's either me getting it done because you can't do it or it doesn't get done at all.
Like, pull the stoic Ben right now and go, that's actually a lot of what Ben Ray Brown talks about in her vulnerability books is that lack of willingness to let control go is actually because you're not willing to show your vulnerabilities for the things where you lack confidence. And so like you maintain the control so you don't have to be vulnerable to another population or person and let them show you their expertise. And so I fall into the same trap. Like when I'm on projects, I'm like, no, get out of the way. I'll do it myself because I don't need anybody else. I could solve this, right? And that doesn't work in any team work consensus thing. And you have to get really good about like, I will trust you to do the job. And then we will talk about if you fail, where you failed and why, and how we're going to resolve that, right? And that is all about personal vulnerability and acknowledging it. And so if you haven't read like Daring Greatly or some of her other books, go pick them up and give them a listen or a read.
I don't need to read about it. I'm perfectly vulnerable. I know everything about myself already.
Be more vulnerable, Andrew. Gosh.
I'm
sorry, Ben. I probably stole your thunder.
No, not at all. No, I would say I struggle with the same thing. So I think I've shared this on the podcast before. I'm sure I have. For me, like I was raised by a single mother. My dad was never around. And so seeing her as an example, she was incredibly self-reliant, right? Like she bought her own house. She did raised me. She took care of us. She moved us from Texas to New York and worked full-time jobs and made sure like I was good. And we still did like a lot of activities, right? But she was incredibly self-reliant. And I would say like on the positive side, like super patient, super understanding. Like I always knew I was cared for. I always knew that I was like first, basically. I was always a priority. Which is something I'm super thankful for because it's something that I carry into my relationship with my kids. Like I always want my kids to know that they're a priority no matter what. Yeah. The other side of that though is also knowing when to ask for help. And I think in her case, she didn't always have the option of asking for help. Until we lived with my grandparents for a while. So like they were always helping care for me. And after school, I would go to their house and, visit with them in the summer because they live not far from us. But I think a lot of stuff in her life she had to take care of on her own. And so unknowingly seeing that as an example, I know one of the things and we can talk about this in another episode, but like recently I've actually started going back to therapy just to talk through a lot of stuff that I was kind of keeping bottled up. And what I realized is the same thing. Like I don't ask for help a lot. I have this mentality of I can do it myself. Like no matter what it is, I can figure it out. And I was doing the same thing with like a lot of my emotional stuff, right? Like I can read the philosophy, I can meditate, I can journal, I can do this, I can do that. But like sometimes you just need that outside perspective that says, hey, like, have you thought about it this way? Have you tried this? Here's what I see. That like objective third party to just help you understand what you're seeing and why, because like you're always going to have a bias. And so that was like one of my first steps towards working through like, what is it like to ask for help from people? because what I noticed is like I would get annoyed when people would try to help me or make suggestions. I would get like just frustrated with them. Like, I'm in the middle of something. I need you to leave me alone so I can figure it out. But like, that doesn't work with your kids or your spouse or anybody that you have a close relationship with. Because as soon as you try to, you know, they're trying to support you and you're just telling them, go away, let me do this. And then I will come back to you once I've figured it out. Because that's my job or my role or whatever it is. And
that's
like
me too.
Yeah. What you start to realize is, like, as you said, Andrew, I think you hit on it, is you're not trusting people with your own vulnerabilities, your own emotions, while you're allowing others to trust you with theirs, which is like you start to realize there's an unbalanced relationship
or
there.
even expecting them to trust you with their emotions. You're not reciprocating that level of vulnerability.
Right.
Yeah. And that's huge. With,
you know
like,
what
your
it
partners.
like.
Right.
I'll give you a real world example. So I'm we're working on a couple of different startups, different products. One of them is in the world of cosmetics. And, you know, I'm doing a lot of the marketing content, you know, all that's, you know, it's kind of my world. What isn't my world, kind of the operations side of the business, right? Sourcing things from, you know, different vendors and talking to, you know, China for the packaging, all that stuff. And then understanding, you know, there's just a lot of different aspects to business, right? As many would assume. Right now it's just me and one other guy, and we're looping in one other person who it's just a person that we know that I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm like, if he's good at what he does, then sure, you know. And I'm like, I trust him to do it, and I acknowledge I'm not good at that part. I'm just so like I could figure it out and do it better than you, just because like I feel like you're gonna suck anyway. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, if I really put my mind to it, I will be better than you. Like, I know this, all right. But it's just, but like, at what cost? And that's like time, right? And I'm like starting to be like, you know what? Like, I think it's also like maturity. I'm like, F it, I don't even care. Like, let you do it. I don't, you know. And now I'm like, cool. But I think if this was Andrew of maybe even 2-3 years ago, I would have fallen into that same exact trap of like, no, we're not going to bring on this guy who is a supposed expert. I'm just going to hop on YouTube. I'm going to learn what I need to learn, and I'm going to tackle that side of the business too. Okay. You know, and that's easily what I have done. But this is kind of like a first go where I'm like, F it. If you say you can do it, let's go. Right. You know, I'm gonna check who do you want.
Yep.
So, you know, that's, I've learned that about myself. This is the first time where I'm like really letting go of the reins here.
And I think to get back to Andrew's original point, right, about the kind of things we pick up and learn from our parents, or the traits we get on our parents, right? And I think Ben put a great notation on it. We as kids had an impression of what our parents' lives were, but we were in no way privy to all of the information that they had, right? And all of the like just day-to-day stuff that they went through that we never even was on our radar, right? And we see this in the media all the time, right? Like if you watch cold case files or mysteries, right? There's always the character who comes in with, this is the problem and here's how we resolve it. And then they get like 4 other people's perspectives. And it turns out that they didn't have a clue what was going on. They didn't know the right direction to go. And had they had the other 2 perspectives, they never would have made the statement in the first place, right? And it's like, that is parenting, right? Your child only perceives basically the outcome of all of the inputs that you as the adult receive, right? And the thing that I'm struggling to remember is, now as I look back on my life and I look back on like how my dad behaved, right? I didn't see that he was working to afford my family and me and my sister and my mother in a house without her working. Like, he wasn't gone because he didn't love me. He was gone because he was pulling in the dough, right? And he was like, that's an emotional perspective shift. Because my brain goes, no, Dad wasn't at my baseball game, right? Like, he wasn't there because he doesn't love me enough. And that's the emotional brain from toddler Andrew, right? But looking back as 40-year Andrew going, I have to decide whether or not I'm going to spend the night with my kids or if I'm going to drive to do an overnight in another city so I can have a paycheck in the morning. That's an interesting decision, right? And the kid doesn't see that. And so, like, that's a big thing as we're talking about these traits or the things we learned or our parents' decisions and how they affected us. We have to look at our own lives and go, how much of the decisions you're making for your kids, do they actually see all the facts, or do they just see the nice polished piece that we want them to see? Right.
And it's hard because, like, you can't explain a lot of that stuff to them. Right. You want them to understand that maturity level, but that's just not, they're not there. You know, there's so many times where I try to, like, teach Henry something because he's a smart kid. And I'm like, we do this because of this. And he just, and I'm just like, you're just not going to understand until you're an adult, you know, and you just got to let some of those things go and let them look at it from that lens.
Even with a 2-year-old, they don't understand why. The concept of why doesn't exist for them, right?
Yeah.
If this, then that, cause, effect. But why, that long term, why we do X, Y, and Z, they don't get it. And why did you hit your sister? Like, right? It's a question that I want an answer to, but she doesn't have it, and she doesn't even know how to articulate it if she did have it.
Yeah, no, they don't learn from, like, a logical sense. Like, this happens and then this happens and this happens. It's more of an emotional type of a learning at that age.
Response. Reaction.
But do we have? I know we kind of talked about our things. Ben, was there any other traits that you kind of wanted to bring up before we kind of wrap things up?
No, I think I think it's a really good conversation, man.
Yeah,
really good for sure.
It's been fun chatting with you guys, catching up. Andrew, great to have you back after a couple of weeks of a little mini hiatus.
I got a vacation.
But summer rolls. What's that, man?
Said I got a vacation.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
For those of
summer
you
rolls around
watching on YouTube, I want you to know that Andrew is safe. The shadow in the background that keeps moving behind him is probably his wife or one of his children. It's not an axe murderer.
Oh yeah, you're seeing that. It's kind of creepy, right?
Because you very much have this, like, every few minutes there's a silhouette that goes by, and I'm like, Andrew's just gonna get murdered. It's gonna be the best podcast ever, Katie. Right?
That's Katie cleaning, and I need to actually go help her soon. But as summer rolls around, guys, things might get a little inconsistent. I'm traveling here in a couple of weeks, and I have a kind of a crazy busy travel work schedule as well. And I'm not sure if you guys are going to be facing the same, but we might have some bumps and rolls here in a little bit. So just wanted to give you guys that heads up as we roll around. But
for me, it's just that we start and the sun is still up, and I'm like, but no, this is a nighttime thing that I do. Like, we shouldn't be going. Shouldn't be going until like midnight, like, because the sun's down.
Yeah, my kids, we usually record, around like 8 in the evening or whatever. But with the summertime, my kids are like just demanding to stay up longer. And it's like hard to push these recordings to like 9-10 p.m. It's like, oh boy, here we go. So it's
because 9-10 for you is like 10 or 11 for me.
Ben's gonna be awake at 2 a.m.
So if nobody's figured it out, we are all in different time zones.
Yeah, we got Mountain, Central, and East time. So not Mountain anymore.
I moved. But
yes, you're in it. Yeah. So you're Central now, right?
I am.
You're in my zone.
I'm 12 hours straight north of you. Like,
there you
get
go.
on the freeway, be there anymore.
Well, guys, if you want to buy Ben's hat, you can go to dadgang.co and use the code DADVERB for 15% off. We got Father's Day coming up. That'll be a fun episode that we're probably going to hit on a little bit. Maybe chat about some Father's Day gifts that I want. I'm just kidding. I think we already did that episode anyway. But thank you guys for listening to this episode. You can check out dadverb.com for courses from pregnancy up through year 1 of fatherhood. And we hope that you enjoy listening to this podcast. If you've been watching on YouTube, go ahead and leave us a comment. If you want to give us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast, that'd be much appreciated to help other guys find this podcast who are entering the world of fatherhood, or guys who are already inside of it. Last thing, if you want to join our Discord, that's going to be in the show notes or the description of this YouTube video. Go ahead and check that out. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.